In the small, peaceful town of Maplewood, Pennsylvania, sunlight broke through the scattered clouds, casting an unsettling glow over the devastation. What was once a cozy, charming community now lay in ruins, ravaged by a tornado's relentless fury. Roofs were ripped apart, street lamps lay shattered like delicate glass, and the streets were filled with an eerie silence. Yet, amidst the destruction, the earth revealed a dark secret, a deep, gaping chasm where the old cemetery had once been. At the center of the turmoil stood Police Captain Marina Hale, her gaze unwavering but her mind racing. "We need cave divers," she ordered, her voice resolute with determination. To her, this chasm was not merely an emptiness, it was a portal to forgotten truths buried in history. The rescue team readied themselves to descend, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness as they entered the catacombs. The walls, damp and frigid, were etched with strange markings, ancient symbols that hinted at a past unwilling to remain quiet. Among the team was Derek, an experienced cave diver whose thirst for discovery overshadowed his fear. As he navigated the narrow, suffocating passages, he sensed it, the air thickened, infused with a peculiar, dark energy that seeped into his very being. Hours slipped by, each step pulling them deeper into the unknown, until at last, they arrived at a massive stone door, foreboding and unyielding. Derek's heart raced, a mix of excitement and apprehension coursing through him. The exhilaration of uncovering something long forgotten ignited within him, yet a sinister presence seemed to linger in the shadows, observing, waiting. As his hand reached for the door, the air turned frigid, and the silence deepened like a heavy cloak. What lay beyond this threshold was no ordinary find, it was something ancient, something poised to be awakened. With a deep, strained effort, the team pushed the heavy stone door aside. Its groans echoed through the crypt like the mournful cry of something old, something that had been disturbed. Beyond the door lay a grand, shadowy expanse. The air was thick with age and dread. At its center rested an ornate sarcophagus, adorned with grotesque carvings, faces twisted in expressions of agony and malice. Derek's breath caught as he stepped closer, his flashlight illuminating the intricate, horrifying details. The carving seemed almost alive, as if the stone itself had witnessed centuries of torment. Driven by a mix of curiosity and fear, he approached and placed his hands on the lid. With a slow, deliberate motion, he pried it open. The air inside the mausoleum turned icy, as if winter had rushed in to fill the void. Inside lay a mummified figure, humanoid in shape, but utterly unnatural. Its face was a grotesque distortion of human features, like a nightmare made flesh. Derek froze, his chest tightening with an inexplicable terror. Then came the sound, a soft, unmistakable click. Derek's eyes widened as realization hit him too late. A trap. Poison gas hissed into the air, its bitter stench filling his lungs before he could react. Agony surged through his body as he collapsed, his life draining away. Blood trickled from his lifeless form, pooling into the open sarcophagus. And then, the darkness stirred. The mummy's form began to quiver, its desiccated skin glistening as the spilled blood shimmered and swirled like liquid fire. A sickening, unholy light enveloped the figure. Slowly, its body transformed, its withered frame straightening, growing. The ancient remains twisted and reshaped into a towering figure cloaked in shadow, a warlock. The air thickened with a presence that felt both hollow and alive, its gaze piercing as hollow eyes opened for the first time in centuries. The warlock's lips curled into a smile, dark and knowing, as if savoring his return. Above, life in Maplewood continued. A year passed, and the town healed, its scars hidden beneath fresh paint and hopeful spirits. Yet, deep beneath their feet, the warlock waited, patient and still, forgotten by those above, but very much alive. A year had gone by, yet the secrets of Maplewood remained unburied. When four enthusiastic archaeologists, Lila, Jamie, Rockel, and Sam, arrived in town, the atmosphere buzzed with the excitement of discovery. Tasked by their professor to follow cryptic clues from ancient tombs, they had no inkling that their curiosity would plunge them into a waking nightmare. Whispers trailed behind them, soft yet unsettling. Stories of an old cemetery haunted by restless spirits reached their ears. While the locals brushed them off as mere folklore, the weight of those tales lingered in the air, sending shivers down their spines. It wasn't long before their search led them to the cracked earth above the reconstructed cemetery. The jagged fissures seemed to call out, a gateway to the unknown. The team eagerly began to excavate, driven by the desire to uncover whatever secrets lay hidden below. Soon, they discovered the entrance to the catacombs, the very path Derek had traversed months earlier. As they descended into the darkness, the air thickened, almost alive with tension. Each step deeper into the tunnels heightened their unease, as if unseen eyes were watching their every move. The cold stone walls felt oppressive, and the faint symbols carved into them seemed to pulse softly under their flashlights. At last they arrived at the door. Massive and ancient, its surface held the same eerie silence that had engulfed Derek's team. With a shared breath, they pushed it open. The mausoleum beyond loomed ominously, its shadows stretching endlessly. Raquel was the first to spot the sarcophagus in the center of the room. It was half open, its grotesque carvings glinting faintly in their lights. Her voice quivered with apprehension. "We should be careful," she said, instinctively stepping back. But curiosity, like a cunning seductress, urged them on. Slowly they approached, the oppressive weight of the room pressing down on them, as if challenging them to unveil its sinister truths. As the group moved further into the mausoleum, the atmosphere felt charged with malevolence. Each step made the air feel heavier, thick with an eerie energy that wrapped around their lungs. Shadows danced along the walls, shifting as if they had a life of their own. Suddenly, the temperature dropped sharply, a bone-chilling cold seeping into their skin. The ground beneath them quaked, a low, ominous growl reverberating through the ancient crypt. From the depths of the darkness, he appeared. The warlock, who had been dormant for a year, unfurled from the shadows like mist taking form. His shape was fluid yet threatening, radiating a dark, otherworldly energy that made the air vibrate with fear. A voice slithered through the room, soft yet piercing. "Who dares to disturb my slumber?" It wasn't just heard, it was felt, crawling under their skin and freezing them in place. They recoiled, their fear palpable. Sam, always the bravest, clenched his fists and shouted, "We're here to uncover the truth." His voice trembled, a fragile blend of bravery and terror. The warlock laughed, a cruel, jagged sound that shattered the silence like glass breaking. "Innocence is a sweet lie," he hissed, his hollow eyes narrowing. He raised his arms and the mist thickened, coiling around the group like a living thing. It pressed against their chests, suffocating and cold, as if it aimed to drag their very souls into the abyss. Lila's heart raced, her mind screaming warnings of doom. But, amid the rising panic, Raquel's thoughts darted to a fragment of an old tale, a story whispered by the town's antique dealer. He had spoken of a secret society linked to the supernatural and a powerful grimoire hidden in the town's museum. The book, he claimed, was infused with ancient magic capable of sealing away malevolent forces like the one before them. Raquel's voice cut through the tension, trembling yet determined. "The grimoire," she murmured, her eyes wide with realization. Jamie turned sharply toward her, desperation evident in his voice. "Where's the museum?" he shouted, his words barely cutting through the oppressive darkness that seemed to close in around them. The warlock's laughter echoed again, deeper and louder, as if challenging them to run. "The old library district." Raquel's voice sliced through the tension, urgent and clear. Without hesitation, she took the lead, urging the group to escape. They raced through the mausoleum, the warlock's laughter following them, cold and taunting, each echo weighing heavily on their backs, threatening to drag them into the shadows. Navigating the dimly lit halls, they pressed on, their feet pounding against the stone, breaths coming in ragged gasps of fear and urgency. Each turn felt endless, but at last they burst through the suffocating darkness into the pale light of day. The sun's warmth did little to ease the chill that gnawed at their bones. The museum was their only hope now. With adrenaline surging through them, they sprinted toward the imposing building, each step fueled by the terror of what they had left behind. The museum loomed like a silent guardian, its windows dark and foreboding. Inside, the air was thick with dust, every corner filled with relics of Maplewood's forgotten past. The town's history hung heavily in the air, whispering of things best left undisturbed. The librarian, an elderly woman with eyes as dark as onyx, regarded them with an inscrutable expression as they entered. "You've come for it," she said, her voice a low rasp that echoed in the stillness. She gestured toward a concealed door at the back of the room. "Be warned," she added, her tone growing serious. "The grimoire is guarded by dark forces." Raquel didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the ancient tome that lay waiting in the shadows. As she opened the book, its brittle pages crackled, revealing strange runes woven into the text. The symbols were unfamiliar, their meanings elusive, but Raquel's fingers moved with a desperation-driven urgency. She deciphered the runes one by one, her heart racing as she unlocked the ancient magic hidden within the pages. Life surged back into their veins, the weight of purpose anchoring them in the moment. They turned and made their way back to the mausoleum, the final confrontation looming ahead. The air felt heavier with each step, as if the darkness itself was waiting, watching. But Raquel, her resolve as solid as the ancient walls surrounding them, raised the grimoire high. With a steady breath, she began to chant, her voice clear and unwavering as it echoed through the shadows. Back to the shadows, you do not belong. The bonds of old shall hold you strong. Each word seemed to cut through the darkness, and with every utterance, the wind began to howl, a furious storm rising from the very ground beneath them. The warlock's shriek pierced the air, a sound of pure rage and torment. Tendrils of darkness spiraled around him, but as Raquel's words rang out, the shadows recoiled, faltering under the ancient magic. His form began to shrink, his once towering figure withering as the spell took effect. The warlock's scream grew weaker, swallowed by the force of the grimoire's power. The tendrils of darkness twisted in agony, struggling to escape the invisible trap closing around him. With a final thunderous shout, the warlock was enveloped in a blinding flash of light, his figure drawn back into the sarcophagus, the lid crashing down with a resounding thud. The ancient seal of power was reestablished, and the air shimmered with the weight of triumph. A heavy silence descended upon the mausoleum. The four archaeologists stood motionless, breathless, their hearts still pounding with adrenaline. The darkness, once so oppressive, lay still now, its presence reduced to a distant echo. They had vanquished the warlock for the time being. The whispers of malevolence would fade, but the shadows would always remain, a reminder of the forces they could never fully comprehend. As they stepped out into the sunlight, the burden of the world seemed to lift from their shoulders. Yet, as the breeze brushed past them, carrying the faintest whisper, they understood that this victory might not endure. Some stories, after all, never truly conclude. They merely await their moment to be recounted once again.